So this is truly a video that I never thought I was going to be making, but here we are. I am taking a social media break, and it's not one of those 1 or 2 day breaks or a week break. This one's probably going to be a little bit longer, and the return being a little bit more indefinite as to timeline because there is some inner work that I personally need to get done right now. And I want to explain why I'm taking a social media break, but hopefully I can do so in a way that's eloquent and comes across, from the heart, because I didn't really sit down to prepare a script. I just, again, straight from the heart as to why I feel like a break would be beneficial right now. And to be honest, I think all social media content creators should take a break from time to time. I feel like it's healthy. But in my personal life, I was telling you guys in Ramadan of 2022, I was praying a lot for my husband specifically and I to get closer to Islam. And in October of 2022, we had a huge issue that seemingly came out of nowhere. A huge rift between my husband and I that was really, there wasn't a lot leading up to it. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And we went so far as to almost get divorced. We had the retainer paid for the attorneys. There was just a lot that happened that I don't really want to get into at that time. But it kind of, again, it felt like a lot of it was evil eye or nazar because there wasn't a lot leading up to it. It just kind of happened. And we were getting a lot of messages and comments at that time saying, I hope your husband leaves you. I don't see what he sees in you. I think he's just with you for money, XYZ. And it was just like a really just intense time for us. And at that time, I almost lost everything that I cared about, which is my family, right? Like my account name is literally Sanya's family, and I almost lost my family. And I think that has been playing in my head a lot. Like, the thing that you care about most in this worldly life is your family, and yet you almost lost them as a result of like evil energy and maybe some evil eyes on you and Nazar. But Nazar is not the reason I'm actually leaving social media. It's just part of this particular story. So what ended up happening next is my husband introduced me to Imam Al-Ghazali. And if you've read his works, he is arguably one of the greatest Islamic scholars of all time. And he shares his own story of how he was the head of this university and in an extremely, extremely prestigious position. And then it came to him this feeling like, what am I doing this for? Why am I a teacher, an Islamic teacher? What am I actually doing this for? And the answer was fame and fortune. And therein lied the error. And that resonated with me deeply because on social media, my intentions were what? Fame and fortune. There was some deeper intentions too, of course. There was, I wanted to talk about mental health. I wanted to be the anti-influencer and show people it's okay not to be okay. And I think I've done a lot of good work. And I think my videos are really wholesome for the most part. But my intention was that follower count. I wanted a lot of followers. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to matter. I wanted to feel great. I'm sorry, I'm like getting kind of emotional as I talk about this because it's not easy to talk about your own flaws, and that's one of my flaws. I wanted to be someone so badly. And I thought, 100,000 followers, 200, 300, 400,000 followers would make me feel that way. And now over 650 and cumulatively almost at 1 million. And I thought I would feel like somebody. And I don't. I still don't. And and so Imam Al-Ghazali was in that point too, where he's like, he questioned his intentions. And then he was going back and forth, back and forth. Do I leave my position? Do I stay? Do I leave? Until God made the decision for him and he got so sick that he couldn't teach. And he essentially disappeared for a few years, and he humbled himself. And I think he, don't quote me, I may be wrong here, but I believe he like cleaned a mosque or just lived a very, very simple life for a bit and just humbled himself and worked on purification of his heart and soul. And eventually he returned to teaching, but completely changed. And so I'm going to read some passages from this book, very, very short, by Al-Ghazali, but I feel like you guys need to know the context of why I'm taking a break. So this is from Al-Ghazali's book. It had already become clear to me that my only hope of attaining beatitude in the afterlife lay in piety and restraining my soul from passion. The beginning of all that I knew was to sever my heart's attachment to the world by withdrawing from this abode of delusion and turning to the mansion of immortality and devoting myself with total ardor to God Most High. That I knew could be achieved only by shunning fame and fortune and fleeing from my preoccupations and attachments. Okay, so let's go to the next passage that I've highlighted. I was applying myself to sciences unimportant and useless in this pilgrimage to the hereafter. Then I reflected on my intention in my public teaching, or in my case, social media. And I saw that it was not directed purely to God, but rather was instigated and motivated by the quest for fame and widespread prestige. So I became certain that I was on the brink of a crumbling bank and already on the verge of falling into the fire, unless I set upon mending my ways. Here's where I'm at now, and this is what I've highlighted. I would put one foot forward and the other backward. In the morning, I would have a sincere desire to seek the things of the afterlife, but by evening, the hosts of passion would assail it and render it lukewarm. Just pause for a second. So that's where I was all of Ramadan. I was doing istikhara, and I was reading the Quran's translation, and I was reading the works of Imam Al-Ghazali, and I was waking up at the Tahajjud to make prayer and dua for the guidance. And I kept getting that same whisper in my heart. Take leave of social media, at least for some time. Take leave. You are so attached to it, Sanya. You are addicted to it. Take leave of it for some time. So here is the next passage that I highlighted from Al-Ghazali. All the theory and practice in which you are engrossed in is eye service and fakery. If you do not prepare now for the afterlife, when will you do so? And if you do not sever these attachments now, then when will you sever them? Pausing again to say, I am extremely attached to social media. I am attached to the validations of the views and the likes and the followers and the growth. So again, going back to Ghazali, at such thoughts, the call would reassert itself and I would make an irrevocable decision to run off and escape. Then Satan would return to the attack and say, this is for a passing state. Beware then of yielding to it, for it will quickly vanish. Once you have given in to it and given up your present renown and splendid position free from vexation and renounced your secure situation untroubled by the contention of your adversaries, your soul might again look longingly at all that, but it would not be easy to return to it. So going back to Sanya Khilji in my life. So as someone who's interested very much in social media, I have gotten to a level in social media that very few people achieve. I've gotten to a level of just understanding marketing and social media and gotten to such a high level in following and building that audience and building that love between myself and them. It's not going to be easy to take a break, and maybe I can't come back to it. Maybe you guys won't be here when I'm back, if I'm back. But that's a risk I'm willing to take because I'm trying to get to my higher self. And so again, what he writes is, then I incessantly vacillated between the contending pull of worldly desires and the appeals of the afterlife. In this month, the matter passed from choice to compulsion, for God put a lock upon my tongue so that I was impeded from public teaching. God made the decision for him. He made it easy for my heart to turn away from fame and fortune. You know? And then so he talks about leaving everything behind, and he said, my only occupation for that time then was seclusion and solitude and spiritual exercise and combat with a view to devoting myself to the purification of my soul and the cultivation of virtues and cleansing my heart for the remembrance of God Most High in the way that I had learned from the writings of the Sufis. So let's pause there. The next few months of my life are going to be dedicated to the purification of my heart and soul, the pursuit of my higher self, to be closer to God, to devote myself to prayer, the remembrance of God. I think in all of this, I'm just trying to become closer to Him, to tap into divine knowledge and guidance, and become my higher self in a way that is undisturbed. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take. I know that I'm going to really dedicate myself to that, at least for this summer, and we'll see. So Bismillah. Let's see where this leads me. And I hope that when I'm back, hopefully I'll be back. Even Al-Ghazali returned to teaching eventually, but as his higher self. Hopefully you'll be there. If not, thank you for following me to this point.